so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, without people like you there to really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my...
Welcome to Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives, with your host, Singh. This is where leadership meets purpose, presence, and passion. In today's fast-paced, high-pressure world, we face a leadership crisis. Too often, teams are led by managers who lack empathy, clarity, and vision, leaving individuals uninspired, disconnected, and undervalued. But it doesn't have to be this way. Great leadership isn't born, it's built. The end game, empower your leadership, inspire the world. Every week, join me, your host Singh, as we tackle the gaps in leadership and life coaching head-on, learning how mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and compassion can redefine success. This isn't just another podcast. It's a mission to fill the void left by ineffective leadership. And it's not just about leadership in business. Life coaching for leaders and new executives is at the heart of this journey. Ready to rise above the noise and lead with clarity, purpose, and impact? Join a global movement dedicated to reshaping the future of leadership, one mindful moment at a time. Let's begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Leadership Podcast on the Transformation Network. The podcast where we turn your stress into strategy, overthinking into clarity, and overwhelm into momentum. I'm your host, Singh, the leadership coach who has watched a generation of brilliant people get quietly defeated, not by their competition, but by their notification. Put the phone face down where you can't see it light up right now, and that's part of today's lesson. And let's spend next 28 minutes together. So let's begin. Today, I want to open with a picture. I want you to tell me whether you have lived inside this particular picture. A leader I worked with, Elena, starts her day at 7:40 in the morning. Before the second sip of coffee, one thing happens. A project slips a day. Small thing, normal thing, but there is Elena finds out through an email, then a Slack message about the same slip in two different channels, then a comment on ticket in Jira. Then someone tags her on a doc in Confluence asking if she saw the Slack. Did you see my message? One event, six notification. And Elena, being a conscious leader, responds to all six of them. She acknowledges the email, thumbs up on Slack twice. She replies on the ticket. She answers the doc. She texts back. And by 9 a.m., she has processed the same 8 words update six separate times in six separate places. And she is already tired. This is not communication, my friends. This is denial of service attack on a human nervous system. And nobody planned it. No villain designed Elena's morning. It's just what happens when you bolt 11 tools together and let every one of them have your attention on demand for free forever. Now, here is what I have come to believe after a couple of years of watching leaders drown at their desks. You don't have an information problem. You have a same information six times problem. See, 20 years ago, the scarce resource was information. Whoever could get it had the edge. Today, well, information is a fire hose bolted to your face. And the thing that's actually scarce, the thing every one of your tools is quietly strip mining is your attention. Your capacity to hold on one thing in the mind long enough to think about. And friends, that attention does not just get spent, it gets fatigued. Every duplicate ping in a tiny tax on the finite account. And by mid afternoon, the account is overdrawn. That's why you can end a day in which you did nothing hard, nothing creative, nothing that matter, and still feel like you went 10 rounds. You don't run out of time, you ran out of attention. There's a difference. Almost nobody budgets for it. And here is the cruel part. The part that makes this so hard to see. Each individual notification is very tiny, it's harmless. A single buzz costs you almost nothing, which is exactly why you never fight it. Who declares? Who declares a war on a single buzz, right? But you don't get a single buzz. You get 200, 300,000 a day. And the cost is not in any one of them, it is in the switching. Every time your attention is yanked from one thing to another, there is a tax to get paid. A few seconds, wait where I was. And that tax paid 200 times in most of your day. See, death by negotiation, death by notification is not one dramatic blow. It is 1,000 tiny cuts you were too busy to feel. And sit on this. Sit on this. Attention. Attention is the scariest leadership asset you own. And you're giving it away one notification at a time. So last week, we opened the series, The Conscious Operator, with a framework called Human. And very first letter was to heart, a deliberate gap you put between the impulse and the tool. Well, this week, we go straight at the hardest thing in the world to heart, not a tool, the noise, or the shouting. It is the 11 apps convinced that what they have to say is most important thing you will hear today. Because here's the trap, right? When everything is shouting, the instinct is to listen harder, to scan faster, to check more often. So you don't miss anything. And that instinct, my friends, is exactly backwards. You cannot outlisten a fire hose. What you need is not more listening, it is better filtering. You need a way to find one true signal underneath all that duplicated noise. So, today we are going to talk about another model that very easy to adopt. It is called Sonar, SONAR. Silence, observe, name, automate, reclaim. So, Sonar does not work by making more noise. It works by going quiet, sending out one clean pulse and listening what actually returns. That's the whole art of leading in a loud word. So let me take you through it. Now, before the first letter, let me name the thing underneath all of this. There are two ways to sit inside the noise. The first is a flooded operator. The flooded operator treats everything, every ping as a signal. Every red batch is an emergency. Every tag is a summon. They are in their own minds being responsive, but what they are actually doing is letting 11 different tools take turns deciding what they think about next. Their attention is not theirs anymore. It belongs to whoever pinged last. That was Elena. That was Elena. Now, the second is the tuned operator. Same 11 tools, same fire hose, but the tuned operator has a filter between the noise and their nervous system. They decide what deserves attention instead of letting the loudest batch decide for them. They miss the fake emergencies and catch the real ones because they can finally tell the difference. The difference between them is not discipline, it is not willpower. It is five moves, and let me walk you through them. And by the way, before I do that, let me answer the fear I can already hear because it is the thing that keeps most of you flooded. And the question is, Singh, if I turn this off, I will miss something. And worse, people will think I'm slow, unresponsive, not on the top of it. Friends, I hear, and I want to be honest about the trade because it is real. So here is the truth underneath that fear. Responsiveness has quietly become performance, a way of providing care by answering fast from everywhere at all hours. But answering fast is not same as leading well. A leader who replies to everything in 90 seconds is not more valuable than a leader who relies to write things with a whole mind. They just look busier. And over a quarter, always on leader makes worse decisions, has thinner relationship, burnt out faster, while congratulating themselves the whole way down to being so available. See, you're not choosing between responsiveness and absent. You're choosing between reactive to everything and present for what matters. Only one of those is leader. So the first letter is silence in sonar. And it is the move that makes every other move possible because you cannot filter a signal you are still flinching at. So every notification you have ever allowed is a standing invitation for a piece of software to interrupt your one human mind on its schedule, not yours. And most of us said yes to all of them once, years ago, but they never revisited it. Your phone is running a decade of permissions you don't remember granting. Now, to silence the pings is to take back the one setting that matters most. Who gets to interrupt you and when? Not all of it. You don't go off grid. You just stop letting a food delivery app and a project management tool have the same access to your attention as your children. I worked with an executive, Tom, head of operations, always frazzles, always a half beat behind in every meeting because his mind was on the phone buzzing in his pocket. So I asked him how many apps could send him notification. He guessed well. So we said, okay, let's count. And we counted. It was 56. 56 different pieces of software had a standing key to his focus. We turned off 40 of them in about 9 minutes. Next week, he told me in his own words, like somebody finally turned on a noise I did not know was on. And I want to be precise about what silence is not. Silence is not disconnection. You're not becoming a hermit. You're not abandoning your team. You're simply moving from a world where everything can interrupt to a world where you decide what can. The information is all still there, waiting in the app whenever you choose to get to it. The only thing you're removing is the power of these applications to reach into your skull uninvited and reset your train of thought. That is not going dark. That is taking back to the door. The practice of S is this. Today, open your notification settings, turn off every app that is not human being who might actually need you. Not later today. You will not miss what you think you will miss. The important things have a way of finding you. The noise is the only thing that needs a siren. So silence the pings because you cannot hear the signal while 56 apps are all clearing your throats. The second letter of sonar is observe. And this is a letter that names specific villain in Elena's morning. Not the volume of information, but the duplication of it. Now, here is what almost nobody notices because it happens too fast. The same message reaches you through five doors: the email, the Slack, the ticket, the dog, the text, keep going on, all carrying identical eight words. And our brain, bless it, does not go, I've seen this. Your brain treats every arrival as a fresh demand. Think about it. Your brain is treating every arrival as a fresh demand. You pay the attention tax five times, six times, seven times, depending on the apps, for one piece of news. So to observe the overlap is to start seeing the duplication as duplication. To notice that you're busy is not five problems, it is one problem wearing five costumes. And once you can see that, you can stop responding to costumes. I'll talk about another leader, Sophia. Sweat to me that she was drowning in decisions. We did an exercise for 3 days and logged every notification and where it come from. When we sorted the log, the truth was almost funny. She was not facing hundreds of things. She was facing about 20 things, each of which had an average ping of 5 times. 20 real items, 100 notifications. She had been experiencing the echo as the event. So the practice for observing O is this. The next time you feel buried, take 1 hour of your inbox and channels and ask a single question of each time. Is this a new thing? Or an echo of a thing is already handled? Toss out the echo. What's left? That's short, honest list in your actual day. The rest, just noise. Just noise closing an impression of work. Because a busy day is usually not 5 fires, it's one fire and four echoes. On to the next letter of sonar N. Name the signal. This is the letter that turns filtering from a vague intention to actual decision. It is not enough to silence the noise and spot the echoes. At some point, you have to say, you have to say it out loud and in advance what a real signal is for you. Because if you don't define the signal, the loudest thing automatically becomes a signal. And loud and important are almost never the same thing. The genuinely urgent really shouts. It's trivial that arrives in all caps. So, to name the signal is to draw ahead of time the short list of things that actually deserve to reach you in the moment as it is happening, and to route everything else to a place you visit on your schedule, not application schedule. So, I give leaders a simple version of this, the 3 channel rule. Pick 3 channels through which a real now level signal is allowed to reach you live. Everything else becomes something you check at times, the mail in a mailbox, not a stranger banging on the door. So I worked with Raj. He ran his whole life on the assumption that everything is urgent. So everything got live access. Now, when we named his actual signals, the list was almost embarrassingly short. A direct message from 3 specific people, one system down alert, and his family. That was it. Everything else, every dashboard, every FYI, every thoughts could wait for a scheduled window. So his anxiety, he told me, dropped by half a week, just in a week. Not because there was less to do, because he finally knew what he was actually listening for. And notice what Raj discovered, because it is the thing nobody expects. When you name your real signals and route everything else into a scheduled window, you don't become less informed. You become more informed because now you actually read the FYIs when you open them. Instead of half swiping, then away between the meetings, right? Scheduled attention is deep attention, but driven attention is very shallow every single time. You are never really absorbing the fire hose anyway. You are just getting wet. So the practice for N is write the 3 channels, and only three, through which something is allowed to interrupt you in real time. Everything else goes in a box you open on purpose. If you can't get to three, I promise you, you haven't named your signal yet. You have just been calling everything urgent, so don't have to choose. You're refusing to choose. Because if you don't decide what deserves your attention, the loudest notification will decide that for you, my brother. Now we get to the next letter A, that is automate the aggregation. And this is where machine finally earns its key, because this is one part of the whole problem. AI is genuinely spectacularly very, very, very good at this. So remember last week, the conscious operator gives the machine's work. Well, this is the machine's work. Shifting a fire hose, collapsing duplicates, summarizing 40 messages into 4 lines, watching 6 tools at once, and handling you the one thing that actually needs a human. A machine will do that tirelessly at 3 in the morning without getting tired or resentful. You should not be the human duplication engine for your own tool stack. That is a job for silicon. I'll be honest with you about my own setup because I practice this. I have built automations that sit quietly across my tools. My chat, my tickets, my docs, and every hour they aggregate everything that came in, strip out the duplicates, and hand me one clean digest. One, instead of me visiting 15 apps and paying the attention tax 15 times. Now, the machine visits the 15 apps and pays nothing. And I get to read just one page. The tools still shout. I just don't hear them anymore. I hear the summary. And if you want to get more information about it, you can go to www.theseamlessmethod.com. And then think about what inverts, the default and invent. The one you are like living in right now is that you serve your tools. You go to them, you check them, you tend them all day, like a shift worker minding 11 machines that each ring a bell when they want. But the automating the aggregation flips it. Now the tools serve you. They report to a machine. The machine reports to you once an hour, and you have gone from being the operator on the floor to being the person the floor reports up to. That is not a productivity hack. That is a change in who works for whom. And it is available to you this week without writing a line of code, just by putting a summarizer between you and the loudest channel in your life. I worked with a solopreneur recently. Nadia did a simple version with no engineering at all, just a habit. Instead of living inside her channel all day, she had the machine summarize each thread before she opened it. So we walked into every conversation already knowing the signal. Same information, a tenth of attention spent getting to it, and all that reclaimed attention went where it belongs, into the actual thinking you should be doing. So the practice for A is take one channel that floods you worst this week, put a machine between you and your attention. So put a machine between the tool and your attention. Now, even just giving and having an AI summarize the thread before you dive in, let the machine wade into the noise. So you can walk into the signal. Because being the human filter for your own fire hose is not diligence. It is machine's job. It's a machine job that you have already subscribed to. Okay, so the fifth letter and the last one is to reclaim the room. And this is one that turns a productivity tactic into act of leadership. Because here is the point of all of this. You do not silence the noise. You do not silence the noise so you can cram in more tasks. You silence the noise so you can be fully present for the few things that actually require a human being. See, the reclaimed attention is not meant to be respent on more inputs. It is meant to be poured into room you're actually in. Think about what the noise steals. Not just your focus, it steals your presence. The leader who is half checking a phone in a one on one is not saving time. They're quietly telling the person across from them that a notification might matter more than they do. And believe me, people feel that. They always feel it. You think you are being subtle, glancing down, they know exactly where your attention went. And a little bit of their trust goes with it. Every time you do it, you're drowning their trust. So the attention you protect from your apps is exact attention you get to give to your people. That trade is the whole game. Talking about Alana, bring her back that I started with the show. She silenced the pings, observed the overlap, named the three signals, and automated the aggregation. And the thing that she told me at end of the month had nothing to do with productivity. She said, Singh, the first time in 2 years, I was fully in my daughter's recite, not half it, all the way in. Because for once, nothing in my pocket was allowed to shout. So the practice for R, the practice for R is take the attention you reclaim this week, spend it deliberately on one thing that deserves your whole self. One conversation, one decision, one person, with every device silenced. Protect the room. Then be all the way in it. Because attention you refuse to give your apps is the exact attention you get to give to the people who actually matter. Right. So here's the reframe. I want to leave you with in a world engineered to shout at you, calm is not personality trait, it is leadership skill. And it is a built thing. You don't find focus lying around. You construct it on purpose by deciding what gets to reach you and what does not. See, the question was never, how do I keep up with all of it? You can't, it's a fire hose. It was designed to be unkeep up with able. That's a new word. The real question is, what am I actually listening for? And how do I quiet everything that isn't there? That's the work. Silence, observe, name, automate, and reclaim. 5 moves between you and the noise. So now here's the deeper thing. Silencing the noise is only half the work. The other half is knowing what you is training to hear in the first place. Because most leaders don't just have a noise problem, they have a signal problem. They are never precisely named that matters. Most of them. So everything sounds equally loud. That's why I want you to take the purpose factor assessment. It is a free 25-minute science backed diagnostics that reveals what truly drives you, what consistently drains you, and blind spots your team feels, but you don't see. Once you have, once you know your own signal, that kind of precision, the noise gets easy to cut because you finally know exactly what you're listening for. Thank you for spending this quiet with me. Keep breathing, keep protecting your attention, and like it's the leadership asset is it is actually in. I'm Singh, and you're watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives on the Transformation Network. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives. With me, your host, Singh. We are honored to have you join us on this journey to explore the transformative power of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and authentic leadership. Tune in every week on transformationtalkradio.com at noon Pacific on Tuesdays, where we will continue to explore how mindful leadership can create a ripple effect of positive changes in your life and lives of those you influence. This show is dedicated to helping you lead with purpose, presence, and passion. Whether you're navigating the complexities of business, building strong connection with your team, or striving to make a meaningful impact in the world around you. To learn more about the show, access additional resources, or dive deeper, visit singhpowerupcoach.com. Remember, leadership isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are. Let's continue to transform lives together